Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the next few minutes, I'm just gonna let people join the meeting, so feel free to unmute yourself and say hi if you want to.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. This is Charlie Martin. I'm in Illinois. I work with Cameron at Memorial Designer. I'm a creative director and artist. And happy Friday, everyone.
I think it's probably good to start. If you want to chat, if you have questions or anything, feel free to use the chat. If you want to interrupt me and talk, that's perfectly fine too. I don't mind being interrupted at all. We're still getting over COVID here, so if I cough, I apologize. I've got like 5,000 different bags, so
Cameron, can I catch COVID?
Here, so
Cameron, can I catch COVID through the phone?
Say that again.
Can I catch COVID through the phone?
No, that's
okay.
why you're safe. But just in case, I did bring some.
Actually apply
just in case.
Yes, if you would please do that the whole time. I'm, Cameron, I don't want the risk here in Wyoming.
Yeah, I got you.
No, I'm teasing you. Take it off.
Yeah, great presentation, by the way.
What's up?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to virtually meet you. I'm Charlie.
Charlie, great to see you.
So I have to apologize. I know this is last minute, but the MBNA exhibit hall hours, they've given us hours to do the exhibit hall, and I was hoping that more people would be involved in the video chat feature. The first day we had 4 people show up, 3 of which just popped in really to say hi. And yesterday we had nobody show up.
I was there.
Well, other than Charlie. We had no visitors. How's that?
Yeah, all right.
So I thought it'd be fun to do something a little different. If anybody that's not a memorial designer pops in, then they'll see we're having a party, right? It's good. So we're cool with that. But anyway, it looks like we've got a good group. We got 18 people, which I think is a lot better than 0. So that's exciting. Thanks for coming last minute and being here. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, is just to kind of introduce ourselves. If you're okay with that, if you're shy and you don't want to introduce yourself, that's okay too. But if you would like to say who you are and where you're from and kind of, what your experience has been with Memorial Designer, whether you like it or hate it, I would hope that you don't hate it. But if you want to throw tomatoes, that's fine too. So if it's cool, I'm just going to call on you. If you don't want to say hi, that's all right. Just I'll wait half a second of awkward silence and then you don't have to say anything. But first, I guess Charlie's already introduced himself, but since more people just joined, Charlie, why don't you go ahead and start first and just give a quick introduction.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm Charlie Martin. I'm going to do this a little bit too, but didn't have COVID like Cameron. I work with Cameron. I've known Cameron for, we're heading to our 20 years, which is pretty wild. My background is I worked at Cold Spring for 10.5 years. I was the art director, design manager. And then from there, I went and worked for a family monument company in Illinois. And I was there for 8.5 years. I worked with a company out in Oregon, and on and off, Cameron and I have worked together. So we're officially together. I'm working with Memorial Designer as a creative director, and I'm a designer and artist illustrator. And I'm happy to be here. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. I have somebody listed as iPhone. I mean, what you gonna call that person? Just kidding. That's you, Drew.
Oh, I was just reading the thing down there and I figured that was me. Cameron, I barely know how to get on here. So I'm Drew Bott. I live in Wyoming. I'm same state as Cameron. So I'm still in one of the free states. I think some of them are less free than Wyoming. Some are even more free than Wyoming. But yep, I've been in Wyoming. I think I've never used anything else except Memorial Designer. So that's all we've used. We've loved it for everything it's done. Cameron's been super helpful with it for us. So yeah, and we've just had the same business forever and ever and ever. Cameron and his family, we've worked together actually in the same business, especially in Cheyenne for some time. So I know Cameron well, and we love having Memorial Designer, even though I forgot the name of it in the program, which I felt so bad about when I got caught. So I'm really sorry. I really like it.
No need to be sorry. See, the problem he didn't remember is because it didn't have a name when you started using it. So you're good.
Oh, probably. Yes. We'll blame it on that. Blame it on that.
We'll call it good. Okay. Let's see. Next, I've got an Andrew. Is there an Andrew with the Andrew? Any Andrew out there? Some people don't have mics, so if you don't have a mic, that's totally fine.
You just wave. Give a double thumbs up.
All right, we got Daisy. Daisy, do you have a mic? Daisy and Kristen Gosicki, they work for Worthington Monuments. They're both on here. I don't know that they've got mics. No mics, so we're good. In the chat, though, I told them they can introduce themselves there if you have the chat window. If you see me looking like this, it's because I got 3 monitors here, one to monitor who's in the thing and one to monitor the chat. So Kristen says she's Kristen, Worthington Monuments art lead, been using MD for 3 or 4 years. Been a monument designer for 9 years, started at Queering in Seattle, been with Worthington for 7 years. I was mad when Matt and Ryan sprung new software on me for design. I'd been coloring with Photoshop, but now I really love it. It makes the whole design process easier for me. Well, good. I'm glad you love it, and I can understand being mad. Being thrown into something new is not always fun. Let's see. Dan, do you have a microphone or a camera?
I do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're just introducing ourselves, saying where we're from, kind of what our experience has been with Memorial Designer, that kind of stuff, just to get to know each other.
I'll pop in. I'm in my shop. I'm gonna start there we go. Hey everyone.
So you want to introduce yourself, Dan?
I'm Dan Drew. I live in Saratoga, New York, and our business is in Hudson Falls, New York, just at the foot of the Adirondacks.
Awesome. So something I learned about Dan recently is he likes to sculpt. Is that true?
I do. I think today's my last day, and then I got to get back to work.
You showed me some stuff the other day that he sculpted.
Fantastic.
Pretty awesome work. Let's see. Duff, do you have a microphone? I see your camera.
I do.
Cool.
Yep. Duff Morrow, Giles Monument Company in Texas. We're still not fully on Memorial Designer. We're still using Gerber, but we kind of bounce back and forth.
Well, if you need any help,
that's all I got.
let us know. That's perfectly fine. Good to have you, Duff. Dustin, do you have a mic?
Yes, sir, I sure do. Dustin Anderson with Dakota Monument Company in Fargo, North Dakota. Been trying to transition to Memorial Designer here for about a year now and slowly getting there. It's hard to break old habits with MonuCAD, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
There's a 12-step program if you want to join.
Right.
It's good to have
First
you.
step is admitting you have a problem that you're not using.
Hey, yep, exactly.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Charlie.
All right. So let's see, Josh, we've got you and Hutton Monument. You want to do you first, Josh, and then since you kind of are together, I think. I can't hear you, Josh. Can anybody hear Josh?
No.
Nothing. All right. How about let's go to Hutton.
Hey everyone, not sure if you can hear me.
We
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes.
All right, excellent. My name is Derek. Josh is my boss, of course. I've only been in this industry going on about 2 years, but I started using Memorial Designer from the beginning, and I've been enjoying every bit of this. There's a couple other features that I'd like to add, but I think it's fantastic, and I appreciate Cameron walking me through some trouble that I had previously.
Awesome. Thanks. As far as the features you'd like to add, keep that on the back burner. We'll talk about that a little later, okay? Jed, do you have a microphone?
I do. I'm Jed Hendrickson, Santa Barbara Monumental, and I'm a Gerber user, so I need a 12-step program.
That's okay. We'll get you there.
Can't hear him very, very well.
Oh, is that better?
That's better.
It's better.
We like Memorial Designer. I'm just grew up on Gerber, so I'm slowly transitioning. But when you get to my son, he uses Memorial Designer quite a bit. We're very happy with it.
Well, Jed, just so you are aware, we do have some T-shirts that say "I grew up a Gerber baby." I was born a Gerber baby, but I grew up to be an MD. So if you want to purchase one later, just let me know.
I'm going to.
All right, Kim, how about you? Are you on air? I don't know if Kim has a mic or not.
No, Kim posted something up on the chat.
Thank you for watching that. Yep. Oh, there we go. So Kim, Rick, Jeremy, Swank, and Sierra, they don't have a camera, but they are saying hi, and they use MD and really like it. Awesome.
Yeah, it looks like Mark Kroom was in here too, but he had a customer. What a great problem to have.
Yes, that is good. Maggie, do you have a camera or a mic? I don't know if Maggie does either.
Yep, I sure
How
do.
are you?
Hi, doing well. So I'm Maggie McKell. I work for Longstreth Memorials. Been working in the business since about 2003. I've been using Memorial Designer for the past, 2 or 3 years. Still use a mix of Memorial Designer and MoneyCAD, but I use Memorial Designer probably 90% of the time, and just a little bit of CAD use these days.
Awesome. Good to have you. Where is Longstreth?
Welcome.
That's in Ohio, is that right?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, in Ohio, we have a few office locations. Our main office is in Gallion. I work out of our Bucyrus office location, and we have an office in Mansfield, Ohio. And then Sean also owns Jan Monument Company, so we have a 4th Monument Company location as well.
Awesome. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Ryan, do you have a mic? Ryan Hendrickson, sorry, there's 2 Ryans.
I do. I don't know if you can hear me. It's buried in my laptop at a docking station.
We can hear you all right.
All right. Well, I'm Ryan. I'm Jed's oldest son. Been using Memorial Designer for a couple of years. Still use Gerber a lot too. We're here in sunny Southern California, where it's sunny but maybe a little less free than mine.
It's I'd probably take the sun over the snow right now. We got snow out. It's been snowing a little bit. Good to have you, Ryan. How about Ryan Andrew? You there? Do you have a mic? I'm not sure if you do or not. No mic. Okay. Well, Ryan Andrew, it's good to have you as well. Sarah Walter, how about yourself?
Hello.
Oh, hi.
It's lunchtime here, so we've been eating. We turned off the camera and stuff so you wouldn't have to hear. But we're with Easter Memorials in Manassas, Virginia, and we used Gerber for how many years? 20 years? I mean,
30 years.
30 years, I guess, and then started using Memorial Designer about 3 years ago. And I'd say we are probably 95% Memorial Designer. We still have to use Gerber for plotting and some small things, but really we use Memorial Designer.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Good to have you all, and feel free to eat. It's fine. We don't care.
Yeah, you can eat. If you have enough for all of us, just send it our way.
It is lunchtime for
DoorDash. I'll give you my address for DoorDash.
Let's see. How about Shelly?
Hello,
How's it going?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Good. Now you don't sound like the rest of us. What's wrong? Yeah, got a little bit of an accent there.
We got the good old Canadian accent, sure. How's everybody? Thank you, Cameron. We love the program, and thank you for doing the show today.
Happy Friday, by the way. Good to see you.
You want to introduce yourself?
Sorry?
You want to introduce yourself and your company?
My name is Dennis Bone, and I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and Larson's Memorial is the name of our company.
Awesome. And Shelley's your sister, right?
Shelley is, and she just stepped away to grab the phone.
Awesome.
And we also have another lady with us listening as well that's working on the kind of learning the Memorial Designer program now too, and doing very well, taking off with it very easily.
Good. Good to hear.
Wonderful.
Okay. Stacia, I don't think we talked to you yet, have we?
Nope, not yet. I'm Stacia Brannon. We have a monument company in Dubuque, Iowa. I feel like we're at an AA meeting because I too am a Gerber baby. But we still primarily design with Gerber because I don't want to take the time to have my husband learn this or he'll go crazy. So when they have problems, they come to me to use Memorial Designer. So we're still learning.
That's okay. I'm still
Good.
It's okay.
I'm still learning.
This is a safe place, Stacia. It's okay.
Safe place, yes.
Okay, good to have you. Mark, did you get your customer taken care of? Mark left again. Never mind. We'll skip Mark. Brandon, how about you?
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Blester. I am from and own the Monument Lettering Center and create all the MLC fonts. And Cameron and I have been working together for maybe 4 years now, almost, on doing the fonts together.
And you know what? This is the first time I've ever heard how you pronounce your name.
Yeah, most people say Bilister.
That's what I tell people. So
it's a made-up name. It's a modified Russian name when my grandfather came over from Russia. So
do you have a font for it?
Do I have a font for it?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Man. So Brandon Blester.
Blester, yeah.
Blester. Yeah. Okay. I'm changing.
What's the
how I
phonetic
how I name you. Okay.
Okay, I'm used to it. That's how all through sports and high school and everything, that's how everyone automatically assumed it was pronounced. So
that's funny. Well, that's I think that's it for introductions, except for maybe Mark Kroom, who obviously is too busy selling stones, which is a good thing to be doing. So welcome everybody. It's good to have you here. Back to what Stacia was saying about being in an AA meeting. So right now MBNA's convention is going on virtually, and I had big plans to be able to get all prepared for it, and COVID kind of wrecked all that. We got COVID at our house mid-January, and it hasn't been very fun to deal with. But they had to have all of the stuff for the booth set up ahead of time, and I just didn't have time to get it all done. And but they needed all the links for all the sponsorship videos and all that stuff. They had to have them hard coded into their system for some of the stuff. And so I went out and created a Bitly account so that I could do a redirect, basically, to give them links that would work later on. And I thought it would be funny to have all the redirects go to somewhere that wasn't just bit.ly.com. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick just to show you this. Share. All right, so let me know if you can see that. So I created the link to go to donglefree.club instead of bit.ly. So you're all now honorary members of the Dongle Free Club. If you're not 100% dongle free, we can get you there. There are certain steps we can do. We even have programs you could just stop cold turkey if you want, or you can have a dongle patch, or if you just can't let it go, we'll do our best to help you out there. But anyway, that was just teasing. I thought it was funny, Stacia, that you mentioned being in an AA meeting. So there you have it. Everybody see my screen okay? Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's new, what we're working on, and that sort of stuff. There's a bug that some people have found that when you type in some text, if you have that text centered on your stone and you go and make panels, everything works okay. But if for some reason this text is slightly off 0, so if it's like 0.001, something like that, then a little bug pops up, an error pops up that it's not going to work, right? Does anybody run into that at all? I know some people did. So we are working on fixing that. We've actually fixed it for the positive direction. When I hit apply, it'll actually work now. But we are working on fixing that. So that will be fixed here within the next week, which is exciting. But what is new and what we are adding is over here in the standard panel section is to allow a panel spacing option, which if I type in my name, and my dates and that sort of stuff, the panel spacing option, when I hit apply, is going to give you the ability to tell how much space you want between the top of the panel and the bottom of the panel from your text. And that's different from the text spacing, which is the one right up above it. So text spacing is between your lines of text, and then panel spacing is between the top of the text and the bottom of the text in the panel. So that's new. And then end spacing here. And also on the panel spacing, if you type in auto instead of a number, then it's going to work the way that it always worked before, which is to just apply the same amount of spacing as the text spacing. Okay, so that's not going to change anything from what you're used to. But it does give you the option now to add in panel spacing if you want it to be different. And then the end spacing, this one's been asked for more often than anything else. And so that's why we're adding this in.
I love that.
The way that the current code works is it will see how tall your letter is. So if I make this a 2.5-inch letter and then I hit apply, it's going to give me 2.5 inches from the end of my text to the beginning of my panel. Okay, so that's how it currently works. But some people have certain numbers that they like to hit all the time or that they're more comfortable with. And so we've made it possible to add in 2 inches, 1 inch, whatever the case may be. And then when you hit apply, it's only going to give you that much spacing on the left and right of your panel. Okay, so that's new. The other thing is there's a little button down here called fixed spacing versus end spacing. So if you hit the F, then it switches to a fixed width instead. And that way, if you want to, you can say, you know, if I want this panel to be exactly 16 inches wide, or I want it to be exactly 18 inches, then you just give it that number and hit apply, and it'll make sure that it's an 18-inch wide panel. So those are all new features that are currently working in the build that I'm working on. The next build that's being worked on this week is actually going to add on 2 more options, and that is to have the ability to move inward instead of outward. So that if you wanted to, in the past, if you wanted to build a panel that fit around this entire stone, for instance, you would have to grab your stone, do a contour like that, break it apart, and then build your panel. And so the next two features are going to be able to do that with with options just in the standard panels. So you'll have the option for doing an offset and the option for building to the outside or inside, depending on what you want to do. So does anybody have any questions on how that works, or comments on whether you think it's going to be useful for you or not?
I think it's great. Very excited.
Sounds very useful for grass markers.
Yeah, absolutely. For grass markers, being able to build your panel to match that marker.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have all that time back that I've spent like just tweaking panels to make them adjust based on certain values of letters. So that's going to be nice.
Is there anything with that you still feel is lacking, or something that you wish it could do that you don't see being able to? I like silence. That's great. Okay. So that's what's coming there. The next thing that I'm working on is more granite fills. Matt Stewart's been asking for a Chapel Rose granite fill for I don't know how long. It's been a long time. And I did build him one Chapel Rose fill, but we're working on some more. No, I didn't do Chapel Rose, did I? Anyway, so we're working on Chapel Rose and Desert Rose. We've got a tile coming in for another green out of, I don't even remember what the color was that they're sending, but working on some more fills. Kim's been asking for autumn brown for a while too, so that's definitely on my list, Kim, to do autumn brown. So more fills is what I want to be working on as well for this next update. I want to show you something here as well. Let me see if I can find it. Now, Maggie, I think this is your design. I think it's your design, if I remember right. Was this yours, Maggie? The Schlaba one?
There's my mute button. Yes, yes, it was.
So Maggie did this design up, and I think it's pretty awesome looking design.
Thank you.
But she was asking, how to do the vertical texture here, how to do Starburst in a vertical or horizontal, as opposed to the Starburst that currently exists in the latest update, goes out in kind of a circular pattern. And so she was asking how to do vertical. And I thought it might be best to be able to do some patterns like this, just kind of as a fill that you would then overlay on top of other things in order to get the look that you want.
I love that. That's great.
Over here on the right-hand side, I've now got a vertical Starburst fill, so that you just grab your, just as if you were filling it with any other granite color. But when you click on it, you would just fill that with vertical Starburst, and then you fill everything else with, the color that you want.
Are you thinking about adding more textures as well?
Yes, I think texture, there's been a lot of talk in MBNA's meetings this week about texture.
Yeah,
and different ways of doing things. And I think it would be awesome to
it'd be nice to have some stippling for sure. Yeah.
stippling and yeah, all sorts of different textures. So if you guys want this vertical starburst ahead of the update, just let me know and I'll email it to you. It's really easy to throw into your fills.
Now, Cameron, you can rotate that if you want.
You can. You
Yep.
just click on it and with the interactive fill tool, you can rotate, resize,
Nice.
change
Really
that
like
texture
that.
as much as you want.
And then you can change the opacity so that it would reduce that intensity of the.
Yep. So it's just a transparency, so you can go either way.
Cool. Great.
Okay. So that's new, and then also I'm finally getting rid of. I'm redoing, not redoing, but I'm getting rid of the old MM- fonts to finally get them converted over to MD fonts, so that they've got nicer spacing and that sort of stuff. So those are the big things that are on my bucket for our update. And I would like to have the next update released in about 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, there's going to be a new version of CorelDRAW coming out. Version 2021 will be out. March 11th, I think, is their announcement for releasing 2021. And so I just want to time my release kind of to match up with theirs, so that all of our new stuff will be workable in the newest version. You don't have to upgrade to the newest by any means. Most people are going to be completely happy with what you're currently using, but I always like to make sure that my stuff works with the newest. Josh asked if Corel 2021 is subscription-based or standalone. Corel continues to do their licensing where you can do it perpetually or subscription, but it's all, I mean, you can choose whether you want to go perpetual or subscription. They did do away with upgrade pricing though in the last update. So if you always want to stay up to date, you need to be on their upgrade program, which is $149 a year. And you have to be on the latest version in order to qualify to be on the upgrade program. I don't know of many that are on that, just because, like I said, you can use the same CorelDRAW for quite a while. I usually suggest 3 to 5 years for your same length of time for using CorelDRAW, the version that you're on anyway. It keeps you from having to upgrade too often. Lori, I saw that you just jumped on a little bit ago. Do you happen to have a microphone? No? And if not, that's cool. I just wanted to say hi and give you a shout out, and thanks for coming and joining us today. So Lori Lang is here with us as well. That's good.
Welcome.
She said hey in the chat, so we're good there. If I stop to breathe, sometimes I have to stop to breathe, so that's okay. All right. Okay, so what else is new? If you're not aware, we also now sell Allen Datagraph cutters, advanced plotting device cutters. I have sold some portable cutters that come from US Cutter as well for doing death dates, and some graph tech stuff as far as cutters go. So we try to get you, set with the best cutter for your needs. If you are ever in the market for a new machine, we're able to get you taken care of that way. So if you weren't aware, we are doing that now. We also sell Microsoft Surface devices. So I'm going to I'm going to stop sharing here really quick so that you can see this better. Figure out how to stop sharing. There is my Zoom. Stop sharing. Here we go. So this is a Microsoft Surface Book 3. It's a laptop that the screen can pop off and turn around. So right now the screen's actually turned around because I was using it in tablet mode. But we sell the Surface devices so that we can bundle them together with the software and also with the hardware, with being able to do death dates and that sort of stuff. So if you're ever in need of a new PC and need a Surface, this is pretty awesome that you can have Memorial Designer on something this small and this thin, and this is actually pretty big because it's a 15-inch screen. But being able to design on something like this wherever you're at is really cool. So if you weren't aware, we are a Surface reseller and can get you one of these, which is pretty awesome. And then we also sell the Monument Lettering Center fonts. I don't know if you've ever heard of those or not, but they are the best fonts ever, right, Brandon? Blester. Brandon Blester.
Of course.
I'm gonna get it right. Yeah, Brandon said we met like 4 years ago, and he his big thing is taking historical fonts, historical lettering, stamps, and those sort of things, and digitizing them and making the best versions available for our industry. And he adds on some awesome features, being able to do things that you can't really do in most other programs available because of the open type features that he's got, where you can have different characters and different dashes and be able to flip your quotes and all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with the fonts. And so I've tried to push those as much as I possibly can because they're absolutely hands down the best digitized fonts I've seen. Professional kerning. There's a lot of people that kern letters individually in different fonts, and that just takes way too much time. So I trust Brandon's kerning way more than I trust my own. If you were not aware, anyway, that is another thing that we offer is Brandon's fonts. Okay, let's see. So there are a couple questions in the chat. I'm gonna cover these here really quick. Sarah, you asked about how much are those? Were you referring to the Surface or were you referring to fonts?
Surface.
So the Surface devices, there's all sorts of different ones. You can go with a Surface Pro, which is going to start out about $1,000. This one is the highest end Surface Book 3, which is going to be closer to $3,800. So there's a wide range of prices depending on size of screen and what you want it to do.
Just to add to that Surface that Cameron was just showing you, that thing is equivalent to equivalent to a desktop computer. So, I've never seen that much power in something that I would truly consider portable.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing machines. And the nice thing, I'm going to grab the dock here really quick. So when you have it sitting at your desk, you can get a dock like this. Okay, so the dock just sits on your desk, and then this one cable will come in and attach, and it's just magnetically attached, so it just snaps on there. And then that way, everything else is attached to this. So you've got your external monitors, you've got mouse and keyboard, you've got internet, and any USB devices, cutters, you know, thumb drives, whatever the case may be, can all be plugged into this. And then it just attaches with a single click like that. So when you're sitting at your desk, this can sit there, and you can use the screen as you want as another, you know, obviously as a screen. But then you've got external monitors as well. And then when you leave, you just take it with you and you just go home, or you go out to the shop, or you go out to the cemetery, or whatever the case may be, and take it with you. So it's super powerful, super portable. Josh has been using one of the, you still use yours, Josh? I don't know if you're.
Yeah, is microphone working now?
Yeah, it is working.
Yeah, Surface Book 2, we got a couple of years ago, and it's like Charlie said, it's a powerful machine, completely replaces a desktop. It'll run multiple screens, run all the peripherals, and it's portable. It goes back and forth with me every day to the shop. So definitely recommend it. A little bit pricey, but I think on that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, they're gonna cost more than your average laptop or whatever. You do pay a premium for the quality and for the form factor being so small. I mean, they fit so much stuff in such a thin thing there. It's crazy.
And the cooling, if you're an artist and you're ever going to use that to draw on, the cooling on that is really nice. The screen doesn't get too warm like a lot of things you'd imagine. That's kind of uncomfortable drawing when the screen's hot. You can, you know, heat up your sandwich while you're drawing. So I really like it. And I want to add this. I got a hold of one of these little, I don't know, what do you call this? Which pen is this?
That's the slim pen.
I really like this thing a lot. I didn't know if I would. It kind of feels like a carpenter's pencil, but it's one of the easiest pencils to hold on to. And I like the way that the tip feels too when I'm drawing. So it's a phenomenal, I'm thrilled with this Surface. Anyway, if you can't tell.
Good. One other piece of hardware I was going to show you is sometimes, you know, people ask about drawing tablets, and I've used Wacom drawing tablets for ever. And I love Wacom technology, but there are new competitors now that are really giving Wacom a run for their money. And so I'm going to show you, I'm going to have to move my camera, I think, to do it. Maybe not. But this here, this is by XP Pen, and it is a 15.6-inch monitor. It is not touch, it's only pen, but you've got a pen and you can, you know, draw right on the screen. So if I switch over to drawing here, I can just draw right on the screen. And the amazing thing with this is it's only like $400. The Wacom version at the same size is like $1,600. And so it's crazy, and it's small. I mean, it's really small and light, and it just connects with a single USB-C cord there to give it the power and the video connection and everything. And so if you like to draw with a pen, I would definitely suggest investing in a drawing tablet like that.
Yeah,
Even
we'll
if
be
you don't
talking
like to
about
draw with a
hardware
pen, just one sec, Charlie. Even if you don't like to draw with a pen, there's all sorts of stuff we do with pens, signatures, you know, signing documents, all sorts of stuff. I've found myself using it a lot for things other than just drawing. But what were you going to say, Charlie? I missed that.
I was adding that Cameron and I have talked about doing some conversations like this in the future, talking about hardware and getting a little bit more in depth, talking about, you know, pens and whatnot. So we'll cover that stuff more if people like that.
Derek was mentioning the Mobile Studio Pro, which comes from Wacom, and that one is, my daughter actually uses my old Mobile Studio Pro now. It's in the $3,200 range. The difference between the Mobile Studio Pro and something like this is the Mobile Studio Pro, like a Surface device, is an all-in-one. It's the computer and everything, where this is not. This has to plug into something else. And so this is plugging into my desktop and is acting as an additional monitor. So that's its sole purpose, is to be a monitor that you can draw on. You cannot use it without plugging it into something else. And so that's where the price difference really comes into play, is that that's what it's for, and it's meant to sit at your desk all day long, like a Cintiq, right? So the Cintiq line from Wacom is like this.
I like Kristen's comment. Change hurts. Yes, it does. I've been using Cintiqs and things for a long time, and I'm transitioning over, and it's weird, but it's great. So.
Julia, it's nice to have you. I think Julia said she's not going to have a microphone or a camera, so but Julia, I want to say Gustafson because in Iceland that's how you would pronounce your last name, but I don't know if you would say Gustafson or what you would say, but welcome Julia to the meeting. So Julia, she's been you've got a camera. Can you talk? Like, do you have a microphone? You're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
She draws dead people.
If you, let's see, how do you unmute people?
Down in the lower left corner.
Down in the lower left, there should be a little microphone looking.
And you hover down there.
You click on that. There you go.
Are we there?
Hey,
Yeah.
there you are.
You missed the introduction time, Julia. So do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Julia Gustafson. I've been a freelance etcher for way too long, and then opened my own shop called Two Rivers Monuments in the middle of Minnesota 3 years ago. And I still am a freelance etcher, but now I get to design with families, which is my true love. So it's all good.
Awesome. Well, good to have you, Julia. And then Mark, you're finally back too. You missed the introductions. Do you want to introduce yourself? Mark Kroom. You'd have to unmute yourself too down in the left-hand corner.
I was trying to find the unmute button. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hey, Mark Kroom.
Hey, how are you all doing?
Good.
Hey, I've known Cameron for, 20 plus years. Shelby got me involved in this. That's his older brother. And this is all I've ever used. So I'm not an expert on anything, but I use it every day. In fact, that's what I was working on during part of the meeting, is working on a drawing. So I like it. I like your changes on your panels because I usually just draw my own in, resize it, center everything. I tend to use things and do it the hard way till Cameron shows me a better way to do it. And then I realized, why didn't I do that a year ago?
No problem. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's hardware. I wanted to have basically 4 pillars or 4 focuses for Memorial Designer, and that is the software, the hardware, the designs, and the fonts. And so we've talked about the software and the hardware and the fonts, but we haven't really talked much about the designs, other than Charlie introduced himself. Forever, I was, that's how I got started, was doing custom artwork for other companies. As far as working with other companies, that was the first thing that I did, was I did artwork for them. Anytime that they needed custom work that they couldn't do, I chipped in and helped them out. And then saw that they also needed software. So it was good to be able to offer both. But I've now gotten so busy with Memorial Designer, the software, that I couldn't do everything and still have a house and still raise kids and all that sort of stuff. So I am really excited that we've gotten to the point in growth where we needed to bring somebody else on. And that's where it's been now, even a little bit more than a year. Charlie's been working with me. So Charlie is taking over the role of all of the custom artwork until he gets so busy that, then we need to bring on others as well. And that's our hope, that we do get to that point to be able to bring on more designers. We do have others that we outsource to already as needed, but the plan would be to have the best team available for all of your artwork needs. We had a customer the other day that said, well, I didn't know that you did layout work, or I didn't know that you did whatever. So we do layout work, we do custom work, we do renderings, all sorts of different stuff. I'm going to share my screen again really quick and show you a brochure that Charlie put together just the other day for the MBNA presentation. So I'll share.
We make brochures. We don't make them all the time, but we do. I like the clouds you drew.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, brochure. I'm looking at my wrong screen. Here we go. The only downside to having more monitors is that I don't know where my stuff went. Brochure.
You open up the PDF.
Yeah.
And you can stop sharing and reshare the PDF.
I think I shared the whole screen. Are you able to see that?
Perfect. Yeah.
You able to see that, guys? And let's see if there's a.
Nice.
Just trying to zoom into.
That looks good.
To the page. Okay. So these are just some different examples of Sandblast designs that we've done recently. Many of which come from photographs, people give as far as reference goes, but they certainly don't have to come from photographs. Whatever it is that you want us to be able to create, we can work on that for you. So there's the first page. Here's the next page. And we're trying to push the limits and the boundaries as far as, not just doing standard one, frosted design. If you look down here at the car, I'll zoom into that one. There's some polish involved, and same thing with this design, being able to shade and do that sort of stuff as well. So there's that one. Sorry about that. So those are some Sandblast stuff. And if you want to have access to this PDF, just let me know. And actually, you know what? I'll do this.
I need a charger.
Do this. Here we go. Copy, share. Copy link. All right. So I'm going to, in the chat, that should be a link to download. Did it work? Oh, no. Here we go, everyone. There we go. So if you click on that link in the chat, that will download this PDF for you. We also do laser etchings, laser designs, whether that's from photographs and doing photographic stuff or drawing up from scratch. I'll zoom in here a little bit. Full scenes. This one, Dustin, this one was for you, I think. This girl in the wheelchair.
Sure was.
Yeah, they wanted to, have her coming out of her chair with butterflies and everything, showing that she's free from that chair. I really love that design. How did that?
Yeah,
turn out? Did you get it etched and everything, Dustin?
Yeah, we did actually.
Awesome.
Wonderful. We even put a little embroidered happy face on the back of the seat of the.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I never noticed that before.
Yep. It's all the details.
Excuse me.
Trying to find that one now.
All right. So there's some different etching stuff as well, etching designs. And then finally, renderings. If you need, more elaborate 3D kind of renderings or just sketches or whatever the case may be, we're here to help you out with any of those kind of needs that you want. So whether it's that one of the things that I've heard from people lately is that they've gotten so busy, which is a great thing, but they've gotten so busy that, they're needing to outsource some of their work. And so if you are in that position that you need to outsource, we would hope that you'd use us as a resource for that so that we can get you taken care of. And, whether it's layout work or custom stuff, if whatever your bottleneck is, we want to help you take care of that. So, Charlie, did you have anything that you wanted to add as far as that stuff goes?
No, I think, that's just reiterating what you said. If there's something that you need, whether it's even conceptual design, just even like if you have a customer, if you have a family that you want, us to meet with, we can set that time up too and do a video conference and just do some sketching for you and help you, sell what, you want to do. And then we also, if there's something that you're wanting to learn, we're here for that too. We can set up time with you to teach you how to do things from, basic line drawings to, knocking out a portrait, whatever.
I'm going to give Charlie some props because he's got the ability to do stuff that I can't do, which is nice because I like that he can do things that I can't, and he's got a different way of working than what I do. He's able to take things, like you said, conceptually and come up with stuff out of his head and be able to design that way. Where me, I very much need a reference to look at, and I can do my best at being able to make something look just like a reference. But as far as creativity and being able to come up with something that doesn't exist, that's, I think, one of Charlie's talents and strong points and God-given gifts there is to be able to do that. And so it's exciting to have him on board and working with us.
Give some props to Mark Kroom too, because there's a lot of that in that brochure. There's a lot of your custom work, Mark. It looks nice. Thank you for investing in us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So whether or not you knew that or not, we do full service design services. We're full service there. We can help you out with whatever you need, and are excited to be able to do that. One of the things that we thought might be fun is to have a little contest doing some design work. I don't know if anybody's interested. If you've got your computers on you that you've got Memorial Designer on and want to try to do something, but we thought it might be fun to try to do a little design and just kind of, see how that works. And so we're not going to do that quite yet, but I wanted to see if that's something that would interest anybody, if you would be interested in doing a little design work while we're here together.
Actually, we're trying to trick you. We're going to send you our designs that we need to get done.
That might be a thing too.
Just kidding.
No, Brandon Blester, he's got some old blueprint designs and stuff that he scanned in that I thought would be pretty fun to try to digitize and duplicate. So we're going to try that in just a little bit. But before that, I wanted to try an option. I don't know if this works because I've never really done a Zoom like this before, but there was a polling option. So I wanted to try a poll and I want to see if it works. So I've got this poll and I'm going to launch it and I don't know how it works. So did a poll pop up on your end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the question is, what is your favorite Memorial Designer feature? So I don't know how you even vote. Like on my end, it doesn't let me vote. So I just want to see what your favorites are. I don't know if I get to vote or not. No, I don't get a vote. We got 5 people left, 4 left. Who else we got? All right. So granite fills, obviously, by far the favorite feature. I think that's what draws most people to Memorial Designer, is being able to do things in color and do it with ease. But I also was interested in seeing what else you guys like, just because it's always fun to see what kind of things you're using and that sort of stuff. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with granite fills is the latest update 1.375 added in the ability to do stain colors. Does anybody currently use the stain color option?
Okay, I'm going to be vulnerable here, and I'm going to say I don't use it that much. And the reason I don't is because I don't completely understand how it works. I get a little confused. And you think I wouldn't because I work with you. But I'm just being vulnerable, folks. So, you know, this is one of those, what we say here, what we share here, when you leave here, let it stay here.
That is perfect.
I agree 100%.
Who was that agreed?
That's me. I agree.
Oh, Mark.
I need to watch the videos.
Well, we're gonna just skip to teaching you how to use the feature, because people have asked or said the same thing, that they're not really sure how it works or what it is or whatever the case may be. So I'm just gonna open up a design. You guys can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
So I hit O to open my number. I always use the same number just because it's habit. But we have a design here, okay?
Yes.
When we design in the grayscale, black is the color that you use. 100% black is the color that you use to signify sandblasted stuff that's going to go deep. Your V lines, your stuff that's deep, right? That's 100% black is what signifies that. If you had another thing like In Loving Memory and you turned it white, the In Loving Memory, normally whatever you blast in the polish is not going to go deep, right? That's your shallow cut or skin cut or whatever you want to call that. That's the stuff that's not going very deep. Those are normally not the same color, but they can be if you want them to be, but they're usually not the same color. And so what we did is we made it so that anything that is 100% white, and I'm just going to show you how this works. So I just combined all that together and I turned it white. So here's a white panel, here's a frosted outline panel. Anything that is 100% white is going to map or change to stain 2, and anything that's black will change to stain 1. Over here in the granite fills, there's a favorite fills section, and at the bottom, the stain colors are here. Stain 1 is the first swatch, stain 2 is your second swatch. In order to change those, you would right-click on them, and it gives you the option to change the color, your stain, your litho, whatever you want to call that. That's changing the color there. So if I wanted to use gray for my deep stuff, and then I wanted to use white for everything else, I would right click and change those first. On the grayscale, you're still using black and you're still using white. So you don't change that, okay? I'm going to wait just a second because we got Rob joining in, and we were talking about this just yesterday. So, Rob, are you there? Do you have a camera and a mic, Rob?
Yes, I do.
You missed the introduction part. So I just want you to introduce yourself if you can. I'm going to stop sharing my screen really fast. Stop share. Oops. That was stop share. Okay, where's Rob? There we go. There's Rob. You want to introduce yourself, Rob?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Rob Crittrickley. I am the owner of a memorial business over in the UK, and a second half of our business is selling supplies to the trade, a bit like the likes of Bicknell, etc. And we act as a distributor for the UK for Memorial Designer, and our business is slightly different. Our trade is different over here, so we have to tweak the interface that Cameron's created, and we've done a whole lot of work with text editing, etc. Some of which I'm hoping we're going to start rolling back into the US version at some point in the not too distant future. So that's basically who I am, what we do, and where I fit into this. And I apologise for being late onto this. It was driving home from work time was the gap between the two seminars for me. So I'm back at home now, though.
Good.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Tell your wife sorry for keeping you up, on a Friday night. But we are super excited that we've. So Rob and I met in 2018 when we did the shootout at MBNA. Prior to the shootout, Rob had contacted or reached out to all the different vendors of software that were going to be there at the shootout. And I guess I just happened to be awake because, that was...
You were the only one that responded. They were all useless.
So we were able to actually meet at the show, and we've been developing MD for the UK since then. So it's been fun. It's been really neat. Not only that, but then they had a show in the UK. I think it was not too long after that, July or something that year, where
it was 2019 when we had our show.
Okay,
We were due to have one. Yeah, I think it was.
But other people have been able to see MD UK and see how that works. So we've picked up customers in New Zealand. And, it's just exciting. It's really neat to be able to see so many people from all over the place being able to use Memorial Designer. But Rob, we were just about to talk about stain colors. And so I'm going to start sharing my screen again, because this is one thing that Rob says his customers are not currently using. Because it's maybe a little bit more difficult than the buttons that he created. And this is why. Okay, so the way that stain colors works is based off of your black or your white in your design to begin with. You can apply the stain colors if you want just by clicking on them with your left mouse button. It will apply that stain. So if I right click on white and I change it to gold leaf, when I then left click on gold leaf, anything that was white will become gold leaf. Okay. If I go back to grayscale, it's going to go back to black and back to white. That's how those buttons function, but I don't normally click on them at all. What I do is it's set to automatically apply when you apply a granite fill. So if I were to apply any granite fill, then those apply at the same time. Okay, so the idea is if you don't use black litho, if you use gold leaf instead of white paint, if you, whatever the case may be, if you want your litho colors to, be a little darker or brown or whatever. You set that over here first, and then when you fill your design, it will fill everything in all at the same time the way that you want it to be filled. That's how the tool works, but it goes back to grayscale, back to black and back to white when you go back to the grayscales. This is the one thing that trips the most people up, and because of that, I might end up changing the way that it works. But currently, I'm going to change this to 10% so that it becomes frosted, okay? If you have something that you originally had frosted, and then you change it to white, and you say, okay, that white is going to turn into gold leaf now because it's white, right? If you go back and fill this in, you can run into the problem that it remembers what it used to be filled as and kind of, goes back to that original fill. And so in previous versions too, that would happen with other things, not just the stain colors. So if you had previously filled a stone with something, it would remember what it had been filled with before. And so what we did is we added what's called forget fills. And a lot of people don't understand what forget fills does. And so I'm going to explain how that works. If I were to select something right now and tell it to forget fills, and I say, yes, I want to forget those, it's still filled. It's not actually unfilling things, but what it's doing on the back end is it's telling it to forget that this is something called polish, that this is something called frost, that this is something called stain 2. The magic behind being able to fill those things in quickly happens because you can, because those get tagged as polish, frost, whatever. And so by forgetting the fills, it tells it to forget that ever existed. And so now I can't go back to grayscale because it doesn't know that it needs to switch from polish back to the grayscale values. That's not going to work anymore. And the reason for that is because it's been forgotten. It doesn't know anymore that those have those special attributes. So that's what forget fills does, is it will make it so that it doesn't remember anymore that had any sort of special attribute to it. Okay. So I just did a bunch of undos to get back to where we were before. But that's how that works. Does that clear anything up, or is it still kind of muddy on how the stain colors work?
I think that's a lot better.
I think it's worth probably sort of explaining what or the problems that we've had in the UK over this. We will regularly have a memorial that you'll do, one memorial in silver, one memorial in gold. And so for us, when we bring lettering in, I used to bring lettering in black, and it would therefore go stain color 1 whenever you filled it. And I'd have to be constantly having to right click, change to stain color 1 to be silver, change it back to gold. And it just proved more awkward for people that it was automatically filling these things in colors when we it'd fill it and you go, oh, I didn't want it in gold, I wanted it in silver. And then you'd have to flip the stain colors, and it was just proving more awkward for people to get their head around. That's why we've ended up reverting back to just a button where you just click it and whatever you've got selected goes that color.
Yeah. I think that's completely understandable, especially for your market. Yeah. And so that makes total sense. Anybody else have any comments or questions on that feature? Still not understand? Need more explanation? Anything like that? Mark, you said it's not something that you maybe use, or you just remuted yourself. There you go.
Is that better?
Yep.
That's better.
Yeah, I would like to show more that's not just black litho. I mean, a lot of people like it, but I'd like to show some, gray. Also, one thing that you showed me a long time ago, I don't know if there's a feature that you can put in that shows the depth of the cut. Like if you don't put any litho at all and you can bevel it. Have you thought about doing something like that, or is that too complicated?
So there is already the bevel option up here.
You'll have to share your screen.
Oh, share my screen. That's right. Thank you, sir.
I mean, we enjoy looking at you, but we'll need to see the screen.
Yeah. All right. So there is this bevel option here. I'll give you some warnings though on how this works. Okay. In order to create a bevel, especially like this panel here, if I were to bevel that, what it does is it will show there a little bit of depth. But in order to make that happen, in order to make it work out, what it has to do is it has to duplicate this frosted part and combine it with this in order to make it so that there's a V-line here that it can give an angle to. Otherwise, it would be going over the whole size of that object. And so if you use bevel, it ends up creating a new object that would then, if you didn't remember to delete it, it would go ahead and cut those lines twice. The bevel tool itself, my quick tool, is also only going to apply bevels to stuff that are black. Like, that I'm pretty sure that's how I have it set, is it'll only apply to things that are black. And if you've got overlapping things like this, there are complicated situations where it might not know how to deal with things. So as far as bevels go, I use that one sparingly. I do use it, and I have it there for a reason. But I just want to give you a heads up or warning that it does have limitations. And also the bevel effect itself is a bitmap effect. It's a bitmap effect that takes a lot more processing power than just a flat carve. So it can slow down your design a bit too, being able to zoom in and out and move around and that sort of stuff, because it's actually a pretty complicated effect as far as the processing behind it. So just so that you're aware.
Cam, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, you said when you use that, you need to remember to delete it. So if I plot that page, will it automatically delete it, or how do you delete it?
Right now, if I had, so this has a bevel effect to it. If I grab that and I hit the plot page button, there are duplicates. So if I move this out of the way, there are two pieces. So I would have to remember to delete this one, okay, in order to not get those double cuts. That's the way that it currently works. Because I think it's going to be more popular to do stuff like that, we are also working on being able to have it auto delete stuff. And we've been working on another plot page function. And I'll show it to you just because it's something that we're working on, but it's not going to be released super soon. But what we had in mind was a plot page Docker. So if I open up the plot page Docker, it gives you the option to tag things to delete. And so if I knew that this needed to be deleted, I can tag that. And for cases like this where you're using Bevel, I would have it auto tag those. Another option is, if you had a design that kind of came to the edge of the screen, then sometimes, you'd smart fill or something in order to fill that in. And so you have pieces that you don't really want to cut. So you can tag different things for deletion. And then when you create your plot page, it would automatically delete those. And you can see, I mean, obviously it's deleted more than what oh wait, no, there we go. But anyway, so that's the idea, or that's the thought behind it, is that we would have a plot page where we can tag stuff for deletion. And that way, when the plot page gets created, it would automatically delete and do some other cool stuff there too. But that's just kind of a tease there, because that's not quite ready. So for now, Mark, if you use Bevel, you need to make sure you delete those duplicates that it makes, because that's the only way that it can do what it's doing. Otherwise, what happens is it would take this black portion and just apply the bevel to the entire thing like this. And so you don't end up seeing the depth correctly, because it's doing depth for the whole object as opposed to just the V line. And that's why it has to create that secondary piece.
Cameron?
Yep.
Joshua Johnson said, doesn't the duplicate, delete duplicate tool do this, remove duplicate?
So remove duplicates, this tool up here, the remove duplicates, in theory, yes, in theory. But the problem that we ran into with remove duplicates is that sometimes people will have something like this, where there's a line here that's on top of another line, but it's not exactly the same as the other line. Or there is one that is exactly the same as, you know, the one underneath it. But because this line here is attached to a square or a rectangle, you know, it's attached. You have to account for logically, you know, that this and that are the exact same size. And because of that, what we had to do is we had to tell it to break everything up into individual line segments to try to delete those pieces, which I have found thus far works. Sometimes works pretty well and sometimes doesn't. I don't know how else better to say that. And because it's also breaking everything up into individual line segments, right now it takes a lot longer than I want it to. So I think we might need to rethink that one, whether or not you know, it needs to completely break things up or not, or maybe there needs to be an option. So Josh, to answer your question, in theory, that would be the idea, but in reality, it doesn't work really that way, the way that I would want it to. If you've never used remove duplicates, you will see here, there are some blue things. These blue lines, the reason that those pop up is because it wasn't able to completely delete everything and it's still intersecting with something else. So if there are intersections, it's going to show you. And that's where this comes into play, where it's actually got another piece underneath it that it's touching, but it's not the exact same length as this one. And so that's why it can't delete it, is because this line is not the exact same length as this line. So it's not a true duplicate. It's just pieces that are on top of other pieces. And so that's why it turns those blue, is anything that's blue is intersecting or touching something else that it shouldn't. And that's why they get turned blue. So if you've ever wondered what that does or what it's for. And obviously there are some letters and some commas blue. So you can see right here, this little piece, and the same thing's going to happen in this. There are little stray pieces there, which show me just one more reason why I should be using Brandon's fonts and not my own. Because
that's exactly right, Cameron.
Yeah, because Brandon fonts are awesome. And I mean, if you look, these fonts, we've been using these same fonts since 1989 or 1990. And back in 1989 or 90, this was pretty clean. You know, you couldn't see that on a 400 pixel resolution, you know, that looks really clear. So now with 4K screens and whatever, I mean, there's a big difference, right? So yes, these should be cleaned up. But instead of me taking all the time to clean up my fonts, I would much rather support Brandon because he does a better job overall in all of the font areas. So yeah, that's why I have pushed the MLC fonts so much, is because they're just so much better than anything that we've ever digitized ourselves. Kim asked, what is the easiest way to join two lines at a corner? Kim, you don't have a thing, right? Two lines at a corner. If you've got overlapping things like this, if they're overlapping, okay, if you grab, and I just held Alt to grab all this stuff at the same time, if you grab that and combine those together, and then you Shift select just this outside one, if you weld them, then it's going to pull out all those pieces that you don't need. I don't know if that's quite what
I wonder if she's referring to you have, you know, two lines that come up together, but they're not a corner. They're just really close. What's the fastest way to get those to close points without extending? Yeah, you know.
Yeah, if that's the case, here's two lines there. If you grab both of them, and I just held Shift to do that. If you grab both of those nodes, okay, there is join curves here, which opens up a Docker, and then it gives you options for how you want to join those. So whether it's an extend or a chamfer or a fillet, whatever the case may be, you choose which option you want, you hit apply, and it will join those together. So I don't know if that's something that you are talking about there or not. If they're combined together first, if those two objects are actually combined together first, you can just grab the nodes, and then it pops up this option, which is extend close to curve, and that will actually draw a line from this one to that one. It's just going to be a straight line though. So the difference between this and the join curves Docker is, if we look at the way the join curves Docker did it, when I hit apply, it took this line and made it shorter, and it went took this one and went straight across, so they actually meet exactly where they're supposed to. So those are different options as far as closing designs. The third one is if they're pretty close together, you can just click this, drag over the top, and it will join those together, or you can grab them all and hit the join curves. When you hit join, it puts them together halfway in between the two of them. And so those are just different options as far as joining curves together. And Kim, I don't know if that's what you're referring to or not, but if not, you can certainly let me know.
Yeah, sounds like you got it. Good.
Time flies. Goodness, it's already been an hour and a half. Are there other questions, tutorials, things you want to know how to do that you would want me to show you? If not, that's great. And if so, just let me know. We can certainly do that. The last thing, so our time is already up.
I had a quick question for Brandon. I'm not going to say his last name, though. Yet I'll have to practice it. So Brandon, I'm just asking for the general question. Let's say that I had a typeface that I wanted created, that I didn't have it, and I was. Is that something you do as a service as well?
I do. It's usually pretty infrequent, just because of the time involved and the cost associated with that time. Makes most people kind of balk at the idea, but I do it. There's different. I've got a sheet of like a pricing sheet I can give out. If I'm given the vectors, that's a huge chunk of the time gone already that I don't have to deal with. So that lowers the cost quite a bit. So I can just focus on grabbing those vectors, maybe cleaning them up a little bit, and then plunking them into my software and dealing with the kerning at that point. So that would speed it up. It also depends on the type of font. So if it's an Old English or a script font, and I do have to draw those vectors, that's very time consuming, and the kerning is then more time consuming as well on a font like that. So I've got a sheet that I can give you or anyone else that's interested. Just a pricing sheet that kind of I've figured out a lot of different, I guess, metrics on what the pricing would look like. But yes, that can be done.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Cameron, we got Duff posted a question. We are running Corel 18. Should we upgrade?
So to answer that question, Duff, first I want to say I think you're running version 2018 instead of version 18. And I know it's kind of weird, but the way that Corel did their numbering of their releases is they had 1 through 12, and then they didn't want an unlucky 13, and so they switched at version 13 to calling it X3, and then so they had an X3, an X4, X5, X6, X7, X8. X8 was actually version 18. And then they moved to yearly releases in 2017. And so now they've had yearly releases 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And on March 11th, we'll be releasing 2021. So the question is, should we upgrade? It depends on what you want to do. And if you're happy with what you currently got, or if there are features that you want that aren't currently in 2018, I am quite content with most people using 2018. It works really well. 2019 I was not so happy with. There were more bugs in 2019 than I was excited for. 2020 is the version that I use all the time, which to me, going 2020 over 2018, you really don't need to upgrade. And I know Rob in the UK, they're using 2018 for their licenses. And 2018 is a good release, and I think you can stay on that for a while and be completely happy.
I was just about to say that we have a different strategy. Cameron's far too kind to you guys. He supports all these different versions, and I say, screw you. If you want this software, you're running 2018.
Yeah.
And my plan is, for me, is that I will run 2018 until probably a 2023 release, because software doesn't change that fast to justify upgrading all the time. It just is not a viable solution to upgrade all the time, which is why I don't buy into these subscription models where you have to upgrade every year to stay on the latest version, and you're paying 20 quid a month or whatever it happens to be to stay on the latest version, because software is just not that, doesn't change that quick. That said, you suddenly get game changers, and 2020 with variable width fonts is certainly for our market a complete game changer, and I suspect it could be for you guys as well, although you don't have that many hand cut lettering. Hand cut lettering in the UK and Europe is far more common, whereas you've been sandblasting since, well, 1800s, I'd imagine. So for us, there's no point changing. We're going to move at some point in the future, and it'll be purely because they've put in a few features that we think those are worthwhile having. But to date, the only one that's worthwhile having, to my mind, is variable fonts.
Yeah. So, and the thing with variable fonts, that's something that we've been looking forward to for a long time. If you're not sure what a variable font is, it's a font that lets you change widths and settings and outlines and all sorts of amazing features. But you have to have a font that supports it, and we currently haven't developed any fonts to support the feature yet, so it's not going to do you any good anyway until we build something to support that.
Brandon, is that something you're going to be working on?
It is something that, yeah.
Yes.
So I've already talked to Brandon about doing especially a modified Roman, you know, because there's I mean, that's 90% of what's being used is modified Roman. And to have one that's variable so that you can adjust thicknesses and
maybe you could call it remodified Roman.
I like that. Yeah, it gets very complicated, but you can potentially adjust the bar width, the serif thickness, the width of the overall letters. You can have, it's basically a font file, single font file that has multiple font files stored inside of it. And so you can use a bar to adjust to whatever degree the font has been made to support, to adjust the shape of the letters, which could be hugely useful for the industry. But it takes a lot of time to create a font like that, because you're really creating 10, 12, 14 fonts within that one font. So it looks nice and seamless when you're playing with the settings in the software, but when you're creating it, you're creating a lot of fonts, and it's actually just creating steps between one font to another font. Yeah, looking forward to that, but it does take some time.
A really good question here was why this was from Shelley's iPad. And it's why do some fonts come at a size that are different than actual? That's a great question.
Okay, so in CorelDRAW and Word, or I think older versions of Illustrator, and Brandon, you can correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but the way that most fonts size, on the back end, there's something called an EM size, or a size in the font that Corel is going off of that size instead of the actual size of maybe the capital letter or whatever the case may be. So this letter is Arial. It says it's 1 inch, but it's really only 3/4 of an inch tall. This is our MD Roman. It's 1 inch, and it's the height of the letter E here is 1 inch tall. Then I'm going to switch over to one other font here, Avenue. So it depends on the way the person built the font and sized it as to how it shows up, because when you're looking at a font, it's normally taking into consideration, you know, if there was an accent on this E and there was a lowercase g, or, you know, something that came down here, it's measuring that 1 inch off of that size as opposed to the capital letter. Now with monuments and our old stamps and all that sort of stuff, we're used to going off of the size of a capital letter H or an X or an L or whatever the case may be. That's why there's a difference, is because if you're using fonts that were not built by us or built by Brandon, that's how they were, you know, that's how their sizing is based off of the way that they were built. We do have the monument text Docker over here on the right-hand side, and this is not very robust, but what it does is it lets you choose a reference letter, choose the size you want it to be, and hit apply, and it will go and then do the math between what it was and what it needs to be to really become a 1 inch letter. And some fonts, the reference letter H is not a good one. So if I do Monotype Corsiva, for instance, you'll see that it's still a little smaller than I would want it to be, because if I were to type out a letter H, you've got a swash coming up here at the top and maybe down here at the bottom. So the letter H is not the best one to use there. You know, maybe an E or an I or something is different. So if you change that to an E and hit apply, now it's going to size that a little better. We've just barely got started on that text feature. Rob in the UK has completely built a different feature for adding text for his, and it works kind of similarly, but even better, that you can tell it to set it as a default for that particular font, where this you have to apply every time you use, you know, that line of text. But it's
a great tool, by the way. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's certainly something that we're working on to make that easier and better for people. And my hope is to actually have a Docker over here that would take care of all that stuff for you all at once.
Cameron, do you want me to just do a quick demo of my text docker on that side?
Yeah, how
I
about
haven't
it?
seen this.
Yeah, show it.
Don't know whether are you
we gonna
allowing
get
us to
it
share
when you're
screen?
done?
You should, if you start sharing your screen, it should stop mine, but I'll stop mine anyway, and you can share yours.
Okie doke.
And I'll just say, Cameron, that was mostly correct.
Mostly correct. Thank you. And you can correct me. Go ahead and correct me really quick, Brandon.
No, it's, I mean, it's neither here nor there. That's close enough.
All right.
Okay.
I'm glad I'm not totally dumb.
So on our screen, we've got a similar sort of thing, text thing over here, but you can see we've got a drop down, and containing that drop down is all the fonts. And I do away. My user interface is far simpler than your guys. I don't usually have that one on there. So we do away with the text docker normally. So if I just type into here, Fred, then you can see that over here it's calculating what the height of that particular letter is going to be. So I can say I want that to be 50 mil, and click apply, and it will just adjust it. If I now change the font, and I have to choose something, bear in mind, this is, if I go to something that I've got on this computer, these are not all on my computer. I share config files with the rest of my team, and so I don't have all their fonts. But if I go to, let's go for Times Roman, then it understood that it needed to adjust the height of the letter. If I pop up here a second and just switch on the property bar, you'll see that this is a 50 mil high letter, and it's created a 50 mil high letter. If I go back to my Arial, then and click apply, then it now knows that it's generated a letter 69.8 mil high, and it tries to keep this letter exactly 50 mil. So that's one thing that we're working on over here, because for us, we don't use the same fonts that you do in the US, so I can't unfortunately use Brandon's fonts. So we have to generally tend to use Caxton and various other different fonts that people just have generally on their computer. So I have to be able to cope with this all the time. So
Now,
that's
Rob,
a new feature for us.
How are you doing that? Are you actually taking from the font file the cap height of the letter? And
what we've got, if I just click exit there a second and click control over here, you can see I have a whole raft load of scaling factors. So I've gone through and you know how Cameron said choose letter A, choose letter E, choose letter I, etc. I've just gone for letter I's, and these are the settings that I get. I can then adjust them if I discover that a letter I wasn't quite right. I can just adjust these settings, save them, and then it will automatically recalculate exactly what that wants to be.
okay, well, that's interesting. But you then have to manually do it for each font that it doesn't necessarily work for.
It works. Yeah, it works for probably about 85–90% of fonts. And generally speaking, even in the UK, I mean, we probably only use half a dozen fonts in total. Each company uses different fonts, but as a company, you generally tend to use half a dozen to a dozen different fonts, and therefore setting them up if they're not quite right is you've probably got maybe one or two fonts that you need to go in and manually tweak just to get right.
Okay.
Pretty awesome.
I shall stop sharing that.
I think it's exciting. And yeah, the stuff that Rob's working on, I think definitely can have application to what we do as well. So we're gonna work together on crossing over, you know, what works for us and what works for them and everything else in between. My customers down in New Zealand have a market that's way closer to the UK market, but their time zone works out better for me to support them as opposed to the UK supporting them. And so it's interesting to work worldwide that way, but it's so cool. Like, you know, I'm excited for where we're at as a company and program. So
make sure we're answering questions here. Kristen, did you get your question answered about what is stain color? Could you let us know in the, I know we covered that, but I want to make sure you feel comfortable there. It looks like if we've missed any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll.
All right. Yeah. I want to make sure that we end this at well, it's going to be on the hour, because the MBNA has more stuff coming up right after this. I think that, let me make sure. I just want to make sure that I'm right there. Session access. Yeah.
So I do have a general question if there's one time available for one.
Okay. So Tony Watson is going to be speaking at the MBNA convention at noon, my time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So I want to make sure that we're done before that, so we can, everybody that's involved can go join that. Just to let you know, so we got about 10 minutes. Okay. Is there, are there any other questions that anybody has? Group and combine and join. Good question. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So Shelley asks, what's the difference between group, combine, and join? And I will.
And weld. Have that.
Let's do this one. Oop, it's already open, that's why. All right, so we're going to close this. Close this. And come back to this one. The main difference between grouping and combining is that when you combine objects together, they become a single object and they all retain the same properties. Okay. A group is where you can have different objects of different types, different colors, whatever, and you're basically putting them in a box so that they will be able to move together. So this here is a group. If I ungroup it, you'll have this object and this object. So there's two different objects and they are grouped together so that when you click and drag, they move together. You know, when you resize them, they're going to move together. That's the main benefit of grouping, is that it's easier to select grouped pieces because they are grouped together. But the benefit of grouping them versus combining is that they can have individual pieces or individual characteristics and properties. If we look at this group, this particular piece here is actually a combined set of different objects. So if I break it apart, then we can see down here, that's 68 different objects there that have all been combined together. The reason that you combine them together is if you combine like things, two things happen, okay? One, if I break it apart, you see these pieces that are completely inside the other one. Those, when you combine them together, will automatically cut out basically this shape so that you can see what's underneath it. So that's super fast as opposed to having to go and find each of these individual pieces and color them black or color them whatever in order to get them to show up, and moving them to the front and that sort of stuff. By combining them together, they become one object, and all of these inside pieces then show through to what's underneath it. If I group them instead, they can each retain their individual properties, and then that doesn't happen. So that's the biggest difference between combining and grouping, is the ability to have your pieces either take each other's characteristics or not, okay? And where you have overlaps, so if I have a red object and I combine it with this blue object, the red object became blue because the blue object was the last one that I selected. If I change my selection, if I go blue, then shift select red and combine it, this one will become red. And anywhere they overlap, you're going to be able to see through what's underneath it there. If I were to combine them, they stay just, or not combine, but group, they stay just the same, but you can move them and that sort of stuff together. That's the difference between combining and grouping. Joining is on the node level, the actual line segments that make up your piece. That is what joining is. And so right now, this node, okay, because this is a rectangle or a square, these special properties can apply to the shapes. But if I were to convert it to curves, convert to curves here, then these nodes are what make up this design, right? And if I broke that node apart, then it becomes two nodes that are no longer intersecting or joining together. So joining is when you take one node and join it together with another node. That way they become one node and there's no longer a gap there. That's what join curves does, is it's joining curves together. If you had 4 different curves like this, okay, and you had one that was a red outline, one that was a blue outline, and whatever, you can take all of these and group them, and you can move them as a group. That's great, but they're all individual pieces. If you combine them all together, they're all going to turn to the same color. They're still not closed though. It's not a closed path. So if you really want them to be closed, you have to join them together. And you can either do that manually or with the join curves, which lets you do that automatically. The nice thing with join curves is that you can have a gap tolerance. So you can actually, set this as like whatever, 2 inches or whatever, and it will go and join that. And it gives you a preview to show you what it's going to look like before it does its job. That way, if you wanted to choose a different style of join, you can do that. But Shelley, does that answer your question?
Hey, Cameron, can you make a 2 circles like a donut, put them on top of one another without a fill? I'd like to explain this really quick and then duplicate that so you have side by side. All right, so the other thing is that if you're looking at combining and welding, if you were to take those 2 objects, yeah, that's great. Make them, yeah, that's perfect. So if you were to take those 2 objects just like that and you were to weld those together, you're just going to end up with a circle. But if you take those 2 objects on the right-hand side and you grab both of those and you were to combine those, which the shortcut is Control L, then you end up with a donut, which is much more delicious than that solid circle.
Unless you like donut holes. My kids actually like donut holes better, but yeah.
Well, when life gives you lemons. So I think that's a great, the ability to be able to weld and combine. And the other thing is, Cameron, can you zoom into those 2 circles you have before? The 2 squares, I'm sorry, the red and blue square. Well, the other thing that's nice is if you group those 2 objects, even though things are grouped, you can still edit them and leave them in a group. So you can use your control, I think it's your control key.
Yep, control digs into a group.
Yeah, and then you can dig into that group and you can modify things within that group. So don't be afraid to leave things grouped. Just know that, when you apply something across the board to the whole design, that, when you click on a group and you tell it to be blue, everything's going to turn blue, so.
Okay, we got about 3 minutes left. I wanted to show you one thing that I thought was pretty cool. Part of MBNA, they've been talking about, different features and showing off different things, and they let me see if I got a different font here. I was talking to Brandon about this earlier, that there's a style of sandblasting things where it's called engaged, where you actually blast away everything behind your letter and your letter kind of pops up from underneath it. So I wanted to show you here really quick something that's cool. If you had lettering like this and you took a box like this, okay? If you take your rectangle that you create and you shift select the text up here on the property bar, you've got options, and there's one called front minus back. And if you do a front minus back, then what that does is it gets rid of all that overlapping stuff and basically creates the engaged lettering look. And then, and this is one thing that's new to 2020, is you've got new drop shadow options. So you can do a drop shadow called inner edge. And when you do an inner edge, then it's going to shadow that for you to give you some depth. And then when you do your fills, then it looks something like that.
Beautiful.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I think the look is really unique and nice.
It's an old school look that people don't use very often anymore, but I love it.
Yeah,
it's
pretty cool. So I wanted to show that, and then I wanted to show one other thing that people have asked me for too, and that is raised lettering, how you would show raised lettering. So let me do this one. Okay, so if I excuse me, if I do a raised letter, so I'm going to do, let's see, I'll just do Common Gothic, okay? If I wanted to show this raised, then using the same drop shadow technique, but a little different shadow, and I even just created a preset for round raised, and so it's just applying that same drop shadow kind of look. And then I did another one that instead of being round raised is square raised. So just by applying some shadows, you know, you can get a different look to your letter like that to show that it's got depth or whatever.
Now, can you still edit that text with those?
Yeah, that's the great thing, is that this is just an effect applied to it, and so it's still editable, and it's you know, so that's pretty cool.
Is there a way to, so there was that issue with the V lining earlier. Is there a way to just do an inward shadow and give you that same, I mean, you won't have a nice sharp line, but can you do like a shadow that would help give you the feel of a non-lithoed, you know, deep cut letter?
Yes, you could do like I'd have to play with it some more, Brandon, to see what the best way of going about it is. But the answer is I do believe yes, you can do it. And there's different modes too for your shadows. You know, whether they're anyway. So I'd have to play with the modes and see which one was best that way too. But the cool thing about the new shadow stuff and being able to do them in general is that they're effects applied to your text. So they're non-destructive. It's not changing your text at all. It's still editable text. And then when you go to cut it, you know, if I were to grab these and run my plot page right now, it's probably going to error out because the plot page doesn't know to deal with that kind of stuff. Well, it didn't air out, but it took off the shadow. So pretty cool stuff. Anyway, that puts us a little overtime. I don't want to cut into Tony's time. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know it was not very much notice, so thanks for being here, and I hope it was helpful. Thanks for supporting us in everything that we do. We very much appreciate it and look forward to this great year with you, and we'll do everything that we can. And Derek, you said there's stuff that you want Memorial Designer to do. Send me an email. We'll see what we can make happen. Thanks, everybody.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.